Okay, well, welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Victor Chavez with me, who's with the New Mexico Trade Alliance, who's going to be sharing about what they do and the resources and programming that they provide to support entrepreneurs. So if I could just have you introduce yourself, Victor, just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into talking more about the New Mexico Trade Alliance.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Cecilia. I think that this is a very great opportunity to let everyone know about what the NMTA has to offer. So I'm Victor Chavez. I work for the New Mexico Trade Alliance. The first time that I worked for the NMTA was back in 2017 when I got a Fulbright scholarship to do my take some master degree classes and work part-time for the NMTA. Through a Fulbright scholarship that was from 2017 to 2018. Then I was offered to finish my MBA and continue working for the NMTA up until May 2020, so mid-pandemic, when I had to go back to Mexico, where I'm living right now, in Puebla, which is like 2 hours away from Mexico City, southeast. And then in last August, I rejoined the NMTA to help them with whatever they need, but specifically the STEP program, which I will cover in this conversation that we're having. I also do social media for the NMTA, and then I take care of some inbound delegations, but then I will talk about those services along the conversation.
So, what exactly is the New Mexico Trade Alliance?
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit that is funded through several levels of government. One of them is the city of Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, the state of New Mexico, and we have a special project with the Air Force Research Lab. Our services are divided pretty much in three big segments. The one that I worked for is specifically the Trade Assistance Program for local small and medium enterprises. But we also have, I don't know if you have heard of Q Station. It's kind of like a co-working space on Central. We also manage that, and they have amazing activities for and hostings for startups, specifically in the aerospace industry. And as I mentioned, and the one that I know less about is the joint venture with the Air Force Research Lab. And what the NMTA does is, and I'll just focus on the export assistance program in which I worked for. What we do is we want to place ourselves as your go-to company or go-to firm for whatever question you might have regarding exporting. So if you're a local New Mexican company that is thinking of exporting, even if you have no experience in that, you can contact us and for sure we will find a way to help you out with that.
What types of businesses have you worked with, like when it comes to exports? Like, can you give me an idea of the types of businesses that you guys work with?
Yeah, so we work with any type of business that is a New Mexican local. We have worked with breweries, wineries, but also like high-tech companies. So as long as it is from New Mexico, as long as it is a small or medium company, we certainly have the services that might support you, or if not, we could find someone that would certainly point you in the right direction for whatever project you might have or the company might have. And well, for as an example, recently we worked with a a company that is crafting this olive oil with chili pepper, and they are focusing on like spreading it on pizza. and they were interested in entering Costa Rica and Mexico. So that's one of the companies that we have been working with. But also, some other kind of companies have been, as I mentioned, this craft brewery that it's focusing more on spirits, but then they had an interest in many, many different countries to start exporting. But then through our services, they were able to focus on one or two markets, and that's what they are doing right now.
So if a company like is maybe thinking about exporting,
Mhm.
um, I guess kind of how would they know that they're ready for that or if that's a good move for them? Do you guys help with that type of stuff? Or what services do you provide?
Yeah, so we help companies even if they are not ready. We can help them assess their export ready, how export ready they are, just by consultations, and then sitting with us, asking questions. We can get to know if they are ready to export or not. If they are not, what are the next steps for them to take in order to be able to export? And well, that includes many services that we have. The one that I mentioned is consulting, as I mentioned, sitting with a company, seeing if they are ready to export or not. We also have educational seminars and webinars to help companies better understand what they need to do to start exporting. And an example is back in June, we had our international shipping documents webinar where we brought an international trade specialist to talk about all those documents that companies need to gather to start exporting, because most of the time, and we have had that case where companies just decide to start exporting by themselves, knowing nothing about that, and then we have seen how their product gets delayed in customs in the other country because they didn't have the documents required for them to pass that inspection. So we do have those educational webinars and seminars. The other was back in September. Um, we got a specialist and he talked about how to export to the UK and the European Union, but specifically for beers and wines. So anything that a local company might want to know about regulations, about shipping products, about anything related to that regarding beer and wine, he covered that. So that's other service that we offer. Also, we encourage companies that are, just exploring exporting to participate in other type of trainings, such as the CITO New to Export training program, which many companies have been taking it. And we can see the radical change in the strategy from not knowing what to do to be very specific and very mindful on their approach of exporting. Other services that we offer is, and it's part of what I do, is we take care of inbound delegations. So back in January, there was a delegation of display manufacturers from Taiwan, and then we were able to draft their agenda to visit different points of New Mexico and have like high impact meetings with local providers, and some of them were able to land deals with with the display manufacturers in Taiwan. But it is important in this case that um, as we get to know and to meet companies, we can we can identify those opportunities for whenever an incoming delegation is getting into New Mexico. We can spot and identify the companies that we have worked with so they can take advantage of that visit and then expand their possibilities for getting new customers. We also offer services for trade missions. We have planned trade missions before. We try to do at least one per year. The next one is to South Korea in September. So what we do is we gather companies that are interested in a specific market, and then we take care of pretty much everything else. We take care of creating or of getting people and consultants that can get them high impact meetings in the other country for this specific company that is participating. Then we go, we travel with them, we give them like a briefing book. This is a document that we have where we lay everything out, talking about the market, talking about the companies, talking about how to do business in that market. So we take the companies, we go along with them, and then we accompany them through the meetings. Um, and then after the trade mission, we do a follow up with the companies and the customers to make sure that they are continuing those conversations and to find opportunities for us to support them. That is other service that we do. Also, we through the SBA, well, the SBA has funded a program called STEP that is managed by the New Mexico Economic Development Department. But we do help the NMEDD to recruit companies to apply for STEP. We help the companies to create the most compelling argument to um, request those funds. So to make sure, well, not sure, but increase their opportunity for them to get it. And what STEP is a fund that helps companies um, get into international markets through funding different activities that they can do to access those markets. So if the company wants to participate in a trade show or a trade mission, STEP can help with that. If the company wants to register their product overseas, it can help with that. If they want to do a market research or they want to do a business matchmaking overseas, it can help with some of those costs. If they want to improve their website to reflect or to be more um, to have an international outreach, it can help with that. And it is important to mention that this program it reimburses the company. So, and it has up to $7,500 per cycle for companies. So, meaning that the company first need to upfront the cost, and then the state will reimburse for up to $7,500 once the activity is done. Other than that, other services that we do have, and that is something that Celeste Nunez, our Director of International Business Resources, has been doing, is that we do road shows. In this, we visit every different district in New Mexico um, for a few days. We go there, we then have meetings with government officials and companies interested in exporting. So we're taking our programs to the different districts. And from those meetings, we are able to recruit companies to participate in the services that we offer. And it's important to mention that because we are funded by the levels of government that I've mentioned, those services are for free for companies.
That's good to know. Have you guys visited any Native American communities on those road shows yet?
So Celeste has been to Farmington and to Las Cruces, and then she has met with some Native American companies in Farmington specifically. One of those companies was interested in doing, well, they are like a jewelry manufacturer. They were interested in specifically use STEP for website optimization project that I've mentioned. I think that unfortunately they were not able to finish the process, but yeah, we have met with Native American companies before regarding these services. And also, just to mention, our services, as I mentioned before, as long as you are a New Mexican-based company, you are eligible to participate in some of the services. STEP is a little bit more tricky participating in because just the eligibility criteria is be registered in New Mexico, have less than 500 employees, being in operations for 1 year, and that the product contains at least 51% US content. But if the Native American companies or any other companies, in fact, meet that criteria, they are eligible for STEP.
Do you have any like success stories that you'd like to share with us about companies that have worked with you all with the services you provide and how you were able to help them with their exporting?
Yeah, we have several of those stories, but the one that we are most proud of is specifically one company that we have helped them from the beginning. From they were not ready to export, so we had those kind of consultations. Then they went through the CITO New to Export program, which helped them, have a better strategy, craft a better strategy for exporting. And then they used STEP to go to like a trade mission. And once they're in a trade mission, sorry, that was a trade show. They were able to generate some international sales, and now they are one of our brightest stars for the entire program. But other than that, we have also had so many companies that have used STEP and that have continued using STEP because this is just not a one-time type of fund. Companies can keep applying for STEP each cycle to kind of um, getting better and improve in whatever they do. One of the companies, for example, is a craft beer company. Um, they are not exporting right now, but they just recently contacted us. But they are interested. They were interested in start exporting, but they didn't know where to start. So they used STEP and to fund a market research activity through one of our partners. We work very closely with the Department of Commerce, and they were able to identify that their markets should be Spain and Singapore. So now they have a more targeted um, strategy to enter those markets, and it's just one of the success stories that we have.
I think exporting sometimes might be a little intimidating for a lot of companies. So I think it's good that there's an organization that is kind of there to walk with them and to show them what are some reasons that a company should consider exporting. And if they are considering exporting, what are some like potential barriers they might run into that you guys can kind of help walk them through?
Yeah. So to consider exporting, I see like a division, right? One is you have grown so much in your local market that in order to continue growing, you might want to explore new markets, right? So let's say that maybe you have like a jewelry company that has been selling in New Mexico so well, but then you see that, well, maybe it's not growing sales domestically as much, then it could be a great opportunity to consider exporting. And that's the perfect example because you already have a strong base locally, domestically, that can support your efforts exporting. So that would be a perfect situation. But also there are other times where maybe the product itself is more about oriented towards exporting. And one of the cases that we have had is this company has this amazing product, but unfortunately in the US, there's only one big client that might be able to buy or not. So it's kind of limiting to just focus on the domestic market. But if you expand your vision and consider elsewhere internationally, there are other companies in Asia and in Europe that might be able to be interested in that product. So even if you're not growing strong domestically, because of those constraints, it might make sense for you to consider expanding internationally. Or even just if you are interested in seeing your product elsewhere, seeing your product in Mexico or in Canada, or having that experience of and that pleasure of saying, I am an exporting company, then yeah, of course you should consider it. Um, what companies need to be mindful? Well, right now we have had a period of uncertainty given the tariffs that has been imposed recently. So that's something that they need to be mindful of, that right now it might be a bit more difficult to start exporting given the reciprocal tariffs, but it's not impossible. We have seen some interest from other countries to keep buying American, and in fact, this is one of the projects that we have in our pipeline that we maybe we can talk about later. But we have had some interest, continued interest in other countries to keep buying American. Also, what other things that they need to consider is that, and this is specifically for some types of technology, because even though the the regular or the normal company would not have any issues exporting, because they do not need an export license to do it. There's nothing like that, but it does apply to certain key technologies that is being guarded by ITAR. And this means that some technologies that could be weaponized for other countries, those you might need to be very careful while exporting. But those are the very unique type of technologies like quantum computing or artificial intelligence or something like that. But it doesn't apply to, let's say, jewelry manufacturing, right? Other things that they need to consider is the relationship with a freight forwarder and the relationship with a customs broker. So a freight forwarder is the one that takes your product from place A to place B. The custom broker is the one that makes sure that your shipment complies with whatever regulations are required for the receiving country. And then those are kind of the things that they need to be aware of. And also another very important thing is exporting is very daunting, as you mentioned, but also it requires a lot of resources from the company in the sense of they need to make sure that they will be able, that they have the install capacity to provide a new market with their products. So, and by this I mean maybe you can create, I don't know, 100,000 barrels per month, right? And then from those 100,000, you are only selling, let's say, 500,000. So you have the capacity to start exporting. But then if you are almost to the capacity of whatever you can produce, it might be difficult to supply other market if you don't have that. And also you need to be aware of the transportation time, right? Because sometimes it could take up to a month to ship your product. So kind of be mindful of those things. And other than that, and would be we most of the time we do tell companies that it would be best if they could have at least one person to take care of the international sales, because it is a lot of back and forth with the foreign buyer, because there might be time differences, like language barriers probably, that so it takes a lot of effort. But once they overcome those small things, it is very rewarding.
And you've already mentioned these, but could you just kind of list again the different things that people could come to you guys for assistance?
Yeah. So if they have no experience exporting and they are interested to know if they can export, we do the export readiness level for the companies. We do educational services and webinars for the companies. We offer assistance for trade missions and trade shows. We offer support getting the STEP grant. We also have them in our database to kind of find opportunities when inbound delegations come in. We also spread the news about other events that are happening, and this is one of the things that I wanted to mention of the projects that we have in our pipeline, and we can talk about later. We also do help with the road shows and just connecting with the other organizations and other partners that we have. That even if we can't help like a full support, we can point them in the right direction.
What are some of those partnerships that you guys have?
So our biggest partner is the New Mexico Economic Development Department. And because through them, we have access, and the companies have access to uh, different resources. One of them is a trade representative that the state of New Mexico has in Taiwan. He has been amazing. His name is Ethan Chen. He has been amazing finding opportunities for local businesses. Recently, he landed some deals for a wine company in New Mexico and a craft brewery. They also have a representation office in Mexico City. So if any company is interested in either Taiwan or Mexico City, we have boots on the ground that can help them make sure that maybe their supplier is legit and maybe finding some buyers. Maybe they are interested in trade shows. Maybe they want to participate in a trade show, but they can't travel. This is what Ethan has done before. He can take the product of the company and then he can showcase them in a trade show, even if the company is not traveling or sending a representative to that event. That is one. So this is the state of what the state of New Mexico has to offer. But we also work very closely with the Department of Commerce, with Indy Vallejos, the Director of International Trade Administration. And what they do is they offer very affordable um, market research for companies. And we have been working very closely with him, where their services can go from this is like a list of potential countries that you might be interested in to very specific and very in-depth market research in which they identify even specific companies that you might want to reach out to. Other is that the New Mexico Trade Alliance is the only regional um, representative of the Exim Bank. This is like a financial institution that helps American companies export. So we can connect you with them also. And the other one is the Air Force Research Lab, which is on the other spectrum of the NMTA that I know a little bit about. But honestly, we want to be known as a very important node in a network in which if we can't help you, we definitely can find someone that might be able to point you in the right direction.
Um, just a few more questions. One thing that I want you to share with others, people listening, is if you have any new like projects or upcoming initiatives that you guys are working on. I know you mentioned a few ongoing, like the STEP program. But are there any other things that you guys are working on that people should be aware about?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, the STEP program, although we are reaching the end of this cycle, meaning that we are to the bare wires of funding, and we're just waiting for the next step cycle to start. So right now, it would not be advisable for companies to apply because we might not have funds left. But as soon as we have the new step cycle, they can start applying for it. Other is, and the one thing that I kept mentioning before is we got invited to the Taiwan Expo. So this is a procurement mission from Taiwan that is happening in Dallas, Texas in August. And they are interested in getting US suppliers for Taiwanese companies. They reached out to us looking and scouting for those companies, and there are like very specific guidelines and very specific eligibility criteria that they have. But we were able to create some interest, and now one New Mexican company is participating in that, and they have secured one-on-one meetings with a Taiwanese hospital. And there's another company that has been chosen, but they are kind of narrowing down what the options might be for them to meet with companies in Dallas, Texas. And if chosen, like those companies are, they TAITRA, which is uh, the Taiwan External Trade Development Council, they are the ones organizing this event. They will cover the air ticket in one night in a hotel for selected companies to participate in this. So it's very interesting. They have a deadline of June 30th, so we still have a bit some time to submit their applications. But I think it is very interesting because they are bringing those companies here in the US, and then native companies here might have the opportunity to participate in that and get like close and one-on-one meetings with potential buyers overseas. That is one of the projects that we have going right now. The other, as I mentioned, is a trade mission that we have to South Korea. This is a market that we have identified a lot of companies have interested in. And what we do is we have met with the companies interested. We have hired a contractor, which this is the contractor fees are paid for by step. So this has no cost for these companies other than if they decide to participate, they would need to cover the travel costs themselves. But for the most important part, the business meetings, this is something that is covered by step. So the service provider is able to have these conversations with the company to better understand where they are and what their expectations are for customers in South Korea. And then they are right now in the stage where they are landing some meetings for New Mexican companies in South Korea. So when September comes, we will join them in that trip to South Korea. We will help them along the way with everything in hopes that they might land more deals in South Korea. And the other project is I've mentioned the Taiwan procurement mission, the STEP, and the trade mission to South Korea. Yeah, those are the ones that we have on our pipeline.
Do you know, are there specific types of companies that like the Taiwanese and the South Korea are looking for, or is it more broad?
Yeah, so they are interested in companies in different industries, and then I'll just name the industries: food and agriculture, industrial component and materials, energy, security, pharmaceuticals and medical products, technology and machinery, and chemicals and specialty materials. So, and this is very important to mention, they have requested for companies to have at least 3 million in revenue. Now, that is kind of hard for New Mexican companies, to be honest. But as I mentioned, the company that landed meetings with a Taiwanese hospital, they did not meet that criteria. So I think it's a little bit more flexible in that sense. It is my hypothesis that that eligibility criteria was created just to make sure that the company has the installed capacity, as I mentioned before, to supply a new market, right? But even if you have not reached the 3 million in revenue, if you consider that you might have the installed capacity to supply your product, it's worth a shot.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us while we're on here? How can people connect with you if they want to learn more or are interested in exporting, and working with the New Mexico Trade Alliance?
Yeah, so if people are interested, even if they believe they are not ready to export, but they have toyed with the idea of exporting, please reach out. You can contact me through my email, Victor at NM, as in New Mexico, tradealliance.org. You can contact me. I'll make sure to help you however I can. But also, you can just visit our website, NM, as in New Mexico, tradealliance.org. There you can find all the services that we offer. You can find more information about STEP and what we can do for you. Also, you can just follow us on social media. We are in LinkedIn. We are posting important trade news as soon as they come and they get, um, well, yeah, as soon as they come. So you would know about everything related to trade. We also are starting a series of documents in which we mention the different resources that New Mexico has to support exporting. One of those, and we have recently posted about it, is the foreign trade zone, which is a whole conversation in itself, but just like a quick overview. A foreign trade zone, usually when you import, you have to pay the tariff or you have to pay duties once it touches American ground. If you are part of the foreign trade zone, your product is considered to be outside of the US for customs and border protection area. So you do not have to pay tariffs or duties once you import to a trade zone. So this could be very important for companies because it's about cash flow, right? Um, Given that you would be required to pay for that tariff or that duty once it's out of that trade zone. So let's say you import some product that's probably t-shirts from China. But then if you import and then if you get it to trade foreign trade zone, which New Mexico has one, you would not be required to pay for the tariffs until you either sell it and enter to the US market, or if you export it, you don't have to pay at all. And this is a very important part of a tariff management strategy that a company could have. So we are doing is in our website and our social media, we're doing a series of those resources that maybe companies are not able to know about, or maybe they don't know about, but might be very important for them if they are planning on having like an international strategy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing different information on exporting and on the New Mexico Trade Alliance. I will link your website, the LinkedIn, social media, all of that in the description so that people can just click on the links if they want to connect and learn more. But I think it's a really important topic and definitely an amazing opportunity for New Mexico companies to take advantage of in working with you all, even if they're not ready to export. It's definitely a great resource.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. And as you mentioned, even if the company has no experience exporting, we can help them draft a path to get them there, to get them ready. And we have even support for once they are export ready, and to keep supporting them through export.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Cecilia.